Flash Facts. Facts in a Flash.
Flash Facts. 5 Flash Facts about time crystals. Hi, thanks for checking out this week's episode of Flash Facts, where we will explore 5 interesting facts about time crystals, or at least as close as we can get to the facts currently, as there is much we still do not know about this amazing new configuration of matter. The study of time crystals is still in its infancy, and there is much more to learn from these. With that said, let's begin. Flash Fact 1. Time crystals were proposed in 2012. The idea of time crystals was first introduced by Nobel laureate and MIT professor Frank Wilczek in 2012 when he theorized that crystals, normally existing in 3 spatial dimensions but static in time, could specially be made to spontaneously break symmetry and oscillate, reordering their structure based on time. The specially created material, to simplify, would be made from an unstable arrangement that shifts between 2 or more possible states, all being unstable and causing the material to essentially transform itself through the dimension of time. This, of course, is a major oversimplification of time crystals, an open system in non-equilibrium, exhibiting time translational breaking symmetry. Flash Fact 2. Their pattern repeats over time. Most of the time when the term crystal is used, it makes one think of things like salt, quartz, or diamonds, basically a geometric arrangement of minerals in a solid form. Time crystals are different though. As their name implies, the crystalline properties are those of its time and not of its structure. This may seem hard to wrap your head around, but you can easily visualize it with a calendar. First, a normal crystal is a repeating structure in 3 dimensions, whereas a time crystal repeats its state over time. Imagine the calendar divided into 2 sets of days, even days, and odd days. On this calendar, though, there are no months or years, only days and weeks. Fill in all the odd days with black squares and leave all the even ones blank. The result will be a checkerboard grid. Now imagine that the days are states of the time crystal. This would be the repeating crystalline pattern in time. Flash Fact 3. The first was created in October of 2016. The first time crystal claimed to have been created was in October of 2016 by researchers at the University of Maryland, College Park, when they trapped a chain of ytterbium ions in a radio and electromagnetic trap and used a pair of lasers to select a spin state, then pulsed the laser to entangle some of the ions. Once entangled and kick-started with the laser, the ions continued to exchange spin states spontaneously. Imagine poking a piece of gelatin dessert and making it jiggle, but instead of settling down after you stop poking, it continues jiggling indefinitely on its own, unable to come to rest. Flash Fact 4. They exist in perpetual motion. Time crystals exist in perpetual motion without violating the law of conservation of energy because perpetual motion is the lowest state it can achieve. In other words, it takes more energy to stop it from moving than it uses moving, as well as its inability to provide energy output. So while it does bounce back and forth, it does so by needing less energy than it would to stay in one place due to its paired instability. This means that while they almost surely will be of value once we know more, it won't be able to generate any usable power. Flash Fact 5. They may interact with the zero-point field. Although time crystals do obey the law of conservation of energy, it seems they do it in a sort of sneaky way, by interacting with the energy in the vacuum field known as the zero-point field. The term quasi-energy has been coined to explain the process of this interaction. The zero-point field is actually the lowest possible energy state that a quantum system may have, and even at its relatively low energy, this ground state, in absolute terms, contains an immense amount of energy. How much? Well, physicists John Wheeler and Richard Feynman calculated that the energy of a vacuum about the size of a light bulb would be sufficient to boil the world's oceans. Thanks for watching Flash Facts. We hope you've enjoyed this week's episode on time crystals and that this video will help explain such a new, fascinating, but technically complex subject such as this in a way that many can understand. The analogies I've used in this video are simplified drastically, as dynamic quantum systems such as this are much different compared to a classical system. There's a lot of interesting quantum effects that contribute to the simplified result that I would love to cover as well, but there are only 5 Flash Facts in a week. Got something to say about this week's topic? Let us know in the comments below.